What's good, everybody? Farzin Vasugian here with you on a Wednesday night. The Chief Zone is back. Yes, the NFL draft is complete. Took place this past weekend. We will recap that, give you guys my thoughts on Kansas City's draft and who I thought had the best draft, and one team that does have kind of an interesting look to their team moving forward, but maybe not going to improve in the way that they want to improve. And also talking about some of the big highlights from the draft. Obviously, the one that got a lot of reaction is the Shedeur Sanders matter, and that is still being talked about today as some fines were handed out regarding the prank call that took place. Give you guys the details on that. The Chiefs decided to pick up the 5th-year options on Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, which should not come as a surprise to anybody. A little bit of stadium talk here, as Clark Hunt over the weekend did a press conference and spoke to the media about the stadium situation. Henry Ruggs was in the news recently. Yeah, Henry Ruggs' name came up recently. And I also want to talk about this whole Bill Belichick situation that took place in an interview he did very recently with CBS that a lot of people are reacting to. All of that here on this episode of the Chief Zone podcast. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight with me, Farzin Vasugian. A lot to get into tonight. Before we touch on all of these subjects here, I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for all of my ticketing needs, whether it's sports, concerts, anything you can buy. SeatGeek has it for you. Events such as Royals opening day, went to that thanks to SeatGeek. Went to UFC Fight Night over the weekend right after the draft. Had to miss a couple of the opening prelim fights, but that's okay. The Chiefs thankfully traded up in the 7th round, so I was able to post about it and head over to the T-Mobile Center and check out the rest of the fights that night. Great night of fights. Also went to WWE Monday Night Raw. Yes. Went to Raw, sat ringside for that one. A lot of fun. And if you guys want to catch any of the action, go to SeatGeek.com. And if you're a new SeatGeek customer, put in my promo code Farzine and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com. New customers can put in my promo code Farzine and save $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. Before we get into the Chiefs draft here, I just want to share a really quick story here. So I went to Raw. As I'm sure you guys saw, was sitting front row. Yeah, had a great time. It was a blast. I've been kind of an on-off wrestling fan over the years. I've always wanted to sit front row for a WWE event once in my life. Sat front row. Actually, was disappointed there were no Chiefs players because I thought they were going to bring back Mahomes and do something because Triple H kind of hinted at that a while ago, but didn't happen. But it was fun nonetheless. My two favorite wrestlers right now are Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker, and they had a main event, actually a solid main event match, which also added a nice little twist to the storyline they're building up there. So I had a lot of fun watching that. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Jey Uso. For those who don't know, Jey Uso, his bloodline, he was actually in a group once called the Bloodline. He's got a lot of family members that have been in the WWE or are in the WWE today. Such as his cousin Roman Reigns. His uncle is The Rock. Everyone knows who The Rock is. His father is Rikishi, who is in the WWE Hall of Fame. Jey Uso is basically that. He recently became the WWE. I don't know if he's a WWE champion or World Heavyweight champion. I apologize. I don't keep track of these too closely. But he recently won the world title at WrestleMania. I think it was on WrestleMania Sunday night. And he's making his way to the ring. And something he really does pretty cool, like Bret Hart did many years ago, was he would take off his sunglasses and give it to a kid in the front row. There was a kid a couple of seats to my right. His name is Jackson. And he had a sign that said "Yeet for Cancer." He had beat cancer a while back. And Jey Uso was about to get in the ring. He was actually on the steel steps. And he turned to his left and he saw this kid. So he stepped down from the steel steps, made his way over. I was like an idiot, like putting my hand up because I thought he was going to come and high five more fans. Glad he didn't come and high five me. I did not need it. This kid got to have his moment here, and very well deserved, as Jey Uso gave him the sunglasses. And after he super kicked Logan Paul in the ring, he was leaving the ring, his music hitting, and he went and gave Jackson a hug and stepped away. And I filmed all of that. I asked his dad, I said, hey, is it okay if I put this on social media? He was totally cool with it. And Jey Uso actually shared my reel. It's got a lot of views online. Jey Uso was actually trying to figure out how to get in contact with the family. His father actually commented on my reel, if you guys haven't seen that already. So I mean, listen, I tried to do my best to reach out to Jey Uso and let him know what his father's Instagram was, and I think some other people did as well. His father did reach out to me and let me know that they have connected with Jey and the WWE, which is really, really cool. And Jey announced it on his social media that they've connected. So air horns for that. How about that? What a cool moment that was for Jackson. So that's what pro wrestling is about. Listen, I love the NFL, the NBA, all these things. But pro wrestlers, man, they just really take the moment to go the extra mile for some of these fans. They really do. I love it, man. I love to see it. Who doesn't love to see it? Good stuff there. And good night of WWE Raw in Kansas City this past Monday night. A lot of fun. All right, let's get into the NFL draft here, because I know a lot of you guys are chiming in, talking about the draft. And by the way, you guys, whatever you guys have to say, please comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the draft as we go along. I'll go over all of Kansas City's draft selections, all 7 of them, and we'll discuss it as we go on. The Chiefs walked into the NFL draft with 8 draft picks. They actually got 9 at one point when they swapped picks with Philly in the first round, which is kind of interesting. And they ended up with 7. The Chiefs were very active in this draft. A lot of trade, a lot of activity, and they got a lot of great players in this draft, I feel like. I'm looking at the 7 draft picks right now. I think they all make the team. I mean, provided they all, stay healthy and whatnot. The one there's one player, I think he's got a bit of an uphill battle to make the roster. But other than that, I think the players the Chiefs got, they went after a lot of needs. They went and got an offensive lineman. They went and got a defensive back. They got an edge rusher. They didn't get an interior offensive lineman, and I'm not too surprised by that because they got 2 last year, and I think they really like one of them in Hunter Norzad. But I feel like in general, the Chiefs had a great draft. They went after very specific needs, tried to replace some of the players they've lost recently, and they, in general, I think had a great draft. Now, ultimately, we'll recap this and I'll give you guys my thoughts, and I would love to hear from some of you guys as well in the comments. But in general, listen, we don't really know how everything's really going to turn out until they're on the field, which is completely understandable. Listen, I remember when the Chiefs were given a bad grade for drafting Patrick Mahomes. Well, I think we all know how that's gone since then. But I think for right now, just looking at it, it's okay to be excited, but not too excited here. I do think here's how the draft works for certain teams. When you have a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes, like Tom Brady, like Peyton Manning, you're kind of in a nice spot here. You can maybe bring in a couple players here and there to help out that superstar quarterback. And then you try to fill in other needs that you have across the board on offense and defense and special teams as well. But I'm just looking at this Chiefs draft right now. I feel like the Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes some help. I think they definitely are going to revert back to the 2023 defense. I'm more excited about the defense coming out of this draft. I know everyone's talking about Josh Simmons the most because, number one, he's the first round pick and a guy who probably should have gone sooner, and I'll get to Josh Simmons first shortly. But I'm more excited about the defense. I think the defense has serious potential to do some damage in the next couple of years with what they have. This is a Chiefs team that really went to work. trying to, again, go after needs, bring in players that from specific areas where they lost or they absolutely needed a serious improvement. I think that is what they did in this draft. And let's start with number 32 overall, Josh Simmons. And before we get into that, the Chiefs were originally supposed to pick number 31, but it sounds like a team was trying to move ahead of Philly in the draft. And Philly just had a better offer, so they were willing to give a little bit more to Kansas City. So they swapped picks in the first round. So Kansas City picked one selection later, and they ended up taking Josh Simmons, which was the player they wanted all along. I think the Eagles got a linebacker. I can't remember who it was. I can pull it up in front of me right now. It was Jahad Campbell. Yeah, it wasn't Demetrius Knight, who I wondered if the Chiefs would go after. I think he ended up going to the Bengals. But yeah, the Chiefs weren't really looking for a linebacker early in this draft. I actually had the Chiefs considering either Campbell or Knight, more so Knight, but at the time I didn't think Nick Bolton was going to be re-signed. Thankfully, Nick Bolton did re-sign with the Chiefs. But I think when you look at this Chiefs defense here, this is a defense, or excuse me, the offense with Josh Simmons. This is an interesting one because the Chiefs did sign Jalen Moore very early in the offseason from San Francisco. Now, as we know, Jalen Moore, and Brett Veach alluded to this in his pre-draft press conference, the knock on him is that he didn't play a whole lot because he was a backup for Trent Richardson. But whenever he did fill in, he did very well. And that's why the Chiefs brought him in, because they feel like, by the way, I said Trent Richardson. I'm sorry, I meant Trent Williams. They feel like Jalen Moore can have learned a lot from Trent Williams and bring that to Kansas City, which they desperately need. But they also got some depth at that position. And I think that is important because what if Jalen Moore does not work? Let's just say Jalen Moore is the day one starter going into 2025. I don't think that's going to be the case, but let's just go with that. Let's say Jalen Moore is a day one starter. He doesn't work out. Well, you got Josh Simmons there as a viable option. Let's say Josh Simmons is the starter in day one and he kind of struggles. Well, they do have Jalen Moore to lean back on. I know the Chiefs have drafted so many players, have signed so many players, traded for guys. None of them have panned out since they cut Eric Fisher. None of them. And I think the insurance policy here is, okay, we already signed a free agent in Jalen Moore, and if we draft another one in Josh Simmons here, okay, we got some options. And if we feel like Jawan Taylor is struggling, we can shift Simmons from being a backup left tackle or more, whoever the backup is, to go play right tackle. That option is always on the table for the Chiefs. I like the Josh Simmons selection. Obviously, he's coming off that injury, but prior to the injury, in the 19 games he played in the last 2 years for Ohio State, which was more than 1,100 offensive snaps. Not all of them were passing snaps, of course, but still a lot of snaps. He allowed just 1 sack in 2 years at Ohio State in the 19 games he played. 1 sack, 11 pressures. That is all you need to know. And I think a guy like Josh Simmons kind of coming in with a little bit of motivation because he missed out on that nice Ohio State championship run last year, which, by the way, a lot of people wanted Ryan Day fired. And look what he did with that program. So I think this is a guy that's kind of fired up to get back in the gridiron and hit some defensive linemen and get to work and protect Patrick Mahomes, because that is what Kansas City absolutely needs. So Josh Simmons is the first pick, 32nd overall there. And then the Chiefs kind of had control of the board for a little bit, picking late in the second round at 63, and then early in the third round at 66, thanks to the L'Jarius Sneed trade, acquiring a third-round draft pick from Tennessee, ended up working out perfectly for Kansas City. A lot of people felt like that third-round draft pick was too low, given Sneed's success and accomplishments in 2023. But listen, cornerbacks don't really have a lot of trade value at the end of the day. They really don't. I remember Marcus Peters, I think they got a second and a fourth, which actually was pretty good looking back. But that's just the way it all pans out sometimes. But I do want to touch on the defense here because 63rd overall, the Chiefs got Omar Norman Lott. And if you saw my last mock draft that I did, I had the Chiefs taking Omar Norman Lott at 63 from Tennessee here. And this one I am thrilled about. Omar Norman Lott had a pass rush win rate of 18.9% according to Pro Football Focus. That was the best among defensive tackles in college football last year. That was a pretty damn solid pickup there for the Chiefs. And then 3 picks later, they stay at the defensive line. They get an edge rusher, defensive end. You know, I know everyone has different names for these. You don't hear defensive end and outside linebacker much anymore. You hear edge. That's the name a lot of people are using nowadays. The edge rusher, Ashton Gelati from Louisville. He had a pretty good career there. In fact, he had 15 and a half sacks and 25 tackles for a loss the last 2 years combined. This past year, he generated 57 pressures. That was 6th among all college football edge rushers. So the Chiefs got a guy who was number 1 at his position at pass rush win rate in Omar Norman Lott, and they got a defensive end or an edge rusher who was 6th among his position at pressuring quarterbacks. Oh, and by the way, both Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, they were in the top 10 or top 15 in pressures. Okay. I'm loving this already. So you got Chris Jones, who a lot of offensive linemen cannot stop. You have George Karlaftis, who a lot of offensive linemen cannot stop. Omar Norman Lott and Ashton Gelati were brought into Kansas City because those are guys that opposing offensive linemen struggled with. You have, from the edge, you have Charles Omenihu, you have Mike Dana, and then beside Chris Jones, you have Mike Pennell. And I've said this earlier, I think losing Treshawn Wharton, massive loss for Kansas City and a big pickup for Carolina. But fortunately, the Chiefs were able to land Omar Norman Lott and add Ashton Gelati to add some depth to the edge position and some strength to that defensive line. The Chiefs have some muscle up front, man. They really do. I'm excited to see what this Chiefs team is going to look like in 2025 defensively. Because when you look at 2023, the Chiefs had 57 sacks. They had 57 sacks that year, and that was the second most in the NFL. This past year, the Chiefs went from 57 sacks to 39 sacks. So they had the second most sacks to the 18th most sacks. They finished 18th in the NFL with 39 sacks. That was a really big drop-off last year. And when you look at some of the games defensively for the Chiefs, and if you get a chance, go look up just the YouTube highlights, because this is a really good example. The game between the Chiefs and the Panthers, they were coming off that Buffalo Bills loss, so they were trying to get back on the winning track the following week in Carolina. And the pressure was there. The Chiefs got to Bryce Young throughout the game. But Bryce Young, at the very last second, and a lot of other quarterbacks did this too against Kansas City, but I think Bryce Young did it the best. At the very last millisecond, Bryce Young would find an open receiver, get the ball out at the very last moment, because he was dealing with pressure all game long. But the Chiefs struggled getting him down. This is kind of a theme all year long. That's why they went from being second in the NFL in sacks to 18th. That big of a drop-off last year. I was not a big fan of that. And I think this year, Kansas City can really start to revert back to that 2023 defense, which is a pretty dangerous defense, by the way, because we all know what 2023 was all about for Kansas City, the drops with the receivers. And thank goodness for the defense, because they dominated. They absolutely dominated. You hardly saw a defense or an offense push around Kansas City's defense. You hardly ever saw that last year. And the Chiefs, offensively, as much as they struggled, they weren't at their best, but they did enough, and they fed off that defense to end up winning the Super Bowl in Vegas. So when you look at what the Chiefs have defensively, especially with their defense, because this is how you win football games. It's, in my opinion, controlling time of possession. Well, how do you control time of possession? You got to win at the trenches. And what did the Chiefs do? They brought in guys to help out in the trenches. They got Josh Simmons, Omar Norman-Lott, Ashton Gelati. That is what they did. They bulked up on the offensive and defensive lines here. And you only had one offensive line drafted this year. They drafted 3 last year in Kingsley Suamataia, CJ Hansen, and Hunter Norzad. And we'll see what's going to happen with the left guard spot, because the Chiefs made it pretty clear before the draft. It's likely going to be competition between Kingsley Suamataia and probably Mike Caliendo, who filled in at left guard last year when Joe Thuney shifted out to left tackle. But I think the jury's still out on Hunter Norzad. I think he could be a good interior offensive guard. I was going to say interior offensive lineman, but I think he'd be a really good guard. I think he'd be better at that than center. This is going to be a team that will improve on the offensive and defensive lines. They did that coming out of this draft. And sticking with the defense in the 3rd round, their second 3rd round pick, they traded up 85th overall, drafting Noel Williams, the quarterback from Cal. The nice thing about Noel Williams is he led all college football players with 7 interceptions last year while at Cal. So this is someone statistically who certainly thrived. Now, maybe level of competition not as big, but still, he had a knack for getting the football. The guy was a ball hawk. So this is what you want on your defense. I know the Chiefs I know a lot of people point out the struggles with the defense in the Super Bowl, and I don't think that criticism is fair, and here's why. When you look at the Super Bowl, which is very painful to look at or even think about, the defense was not an issue in that game, man. They just weren't. I know the Eagles got 3 points early in the game, but they were able to get an interception. I think it was Brian Cook who got that interception in the first quarter or early second quarter. And then they missed the field goal at another point. It's like, the defense did enough in the first half. Patrick Mahomes threw a pick 6, and then on the next offensive play, he threw a pick, already setting up the Eagles with great field position. All they had to do was just snap the ball and just push it in. The defense cannot be responsible for those last 14 points in the first half. No way. So I don't think the defense was that bad. Do they have room to improve? Sure, especially with the loss of Justin Reed, Treshaun Wharton. Those things certainly need to be addressed. There's a reason why they got the 5th-year option on Trent McDuffie, which we'll get into a little later on. Then the Chiefs in the 4th round went back to the offensive side after going defense 3 picks in a row on day 2 of the draft, and they brought in Jalen Royals. This is already getting a lot of hype out of Utah State, by the way, because the fact that his last name is Royals, and people are wondering if he'll wear 85. Whoever is wearing 85 for the Chiefs, I think it's Baylor Cup, or who is wearing 85 right now for the Chiefs? I don't know who's wearing 85. But whoever's wearing it, I'm already seeing Chiefs fans ask they give that up so they can give it to Royals. That way it can say Royals 85. Might be the highest selling jersey by a 4th round draft pick in Chiefs history. So that was certainly interesting to see. Then they, in the 5th round, get Jeffrey Bossa, the linebacker from Oregon. Had a really good career with the Oregon Ducks. Interesting thing about him, he won the defensive MVP in the January 2024 Fiesta Bowl. So obviously has had some success, especially at a big stage, which is good. And by the way, Jalen Royals, I forgot to mention, with him specifically, what did he run at the combine? He ran a 4.4240. Yeah, that is going to be very useful in an Andy Reid offensive scheme. 100%. You know what else is going to really work in an Andy Reid offensive scheme? A running back out of SMU, Brashard Smith. This was Kansas City's last 7th round pick. They traded picks 251 and 257. 257 was a Mr. Irrelevant pick. The two compensatory picks the Chiefs got for this draft. They traded those two to the Patriots to move up at 228, and they got Brashard Smith. Now, I do want to touch on the running back position group from this draft, because I was really surprised at where some of these running backs were drafted. But the Chiefs got Brashard Smith. If you guys saw, I put up a graphic of the 5 best running backs and the 5 best wide receivers in terms of their 40 time from the scouting combine. Brashard Smith had the 3rd fastest 40 time among running backs at the scouting combine. He ran a 4.39 40, which again, the 3rd fastest among running backs that participated at the scouting combine. He rushed for over 1,300 yards last year, the 15th most in college football. So this is someone who certainly can produce for you. There was some discussion during the draft and even leading up to the draft whether or not Kansas City needed a running back. Because I saw a few mock drafts that had Kansas City taking a running back in the 1st round. There were several mock drafts that had the Chiefs taking a running back in day 2, a lot of them with the 2nd round pick. The Caleb Johnson was the popular name for the Chiefs to get out of Iowa. But they ended up waiting on the running back position. And I will say this, just kind of looking at the running backs right now, looking at ESPN's DraftCast, I was really surprised with the placement of some of these running backs here. Locally speaking, I know a guy like Devin Neal, who a lot of people were excited to see where he would go. People thought that there was a chance he could have came to Kansas City on day 2, maybe in the 3rd round. He did not get drafted until the 6th round, and that was to New Orleans, which is a surprise to me for sure. But I'm looking at the running back board here. Ashton Genty was the 1st running back to the Raiders. No surprise there. Omarion Hampton, the other 1st round running back drafted out of North Carolina. This is where things got interesting. In the 2nd round, only 3 running backs got taken. Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. So Ohio State had 2 really good running backs entering the draft. Both were taken in the 2nd round. Both were 2 picks apart. But a lot of people felt like Travion Henderson was a better selection than Quinshon Judkins. So the Browns took Judkins, and then 2 picks later, the Patriots got Henderson, which, by the way, I think is a great pickup for the Patriots. And then the last running back taken in the 2nd round was RJ Harvey out of UCF to the Broncos. And RJ Harvey was a guy that was on my radar. I was thinking the Chiefs might get him in the 3rd round. Man, he got drafted before Caleb Johnson, Cam Scottaboo, Devin Neal, DJ Giddens. That was a surprise to me. Damian Martinez. I mean, some of those guys I mentioned, Cam Scottaboo ended up being a 4th round draft pick. Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee ended up being taken in the 4th. DJ Giddens out of K-State was taken in the 5th. Devin Neal from KU in the 6th, as I mentioned earlier. Damian Martinez out of Miami, who I think has tremendous speed, was taken in the 7th round. I mean, I was really surprised by the movement by some of these running backs in this draft. I thought some of these running backs would have gone much, much sooner. And listen, this kind of, and I'll get to this with someone else later on, but this is why fans in the media, their mock drafts, their expectations, not the same with the 32 NFL teams. Just not. I love playing with the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. You can really get lost in that one if you do it over and over again, because it'll give you a different result every time, which is kind of nice. Maybe a little false hope provided at times with the different mock draft selections there. But man, I just remember every time I would do the mock draft simulator on PFF, Cam Scottaboo was either gone by the time Kansas City picked at 63, or Cam Scottaboo would be available early in the third round for KC. And by the time I picked with the Chiefs with their other third round pick, 95th, Devin Neal was gone. DJ Gins was not on the board. Dylan Sampson was not on the board. And none of those guys were taken in the third round. All of them were taken on day 3. So, listen, this just shows you that the teams know more than we do, obviously. They know way more than the experts, than we realize. Listen, I know Mel Kiper got a lot of attention this past weekend. And it's not just him, Matt Miller. I mean, all of these draft analysts out there, okay? Listen, I'm not here to fault any of these guys. I know a lot of people love to bag on Mel Kiper, which, okay, fine. But look, are these players watching game film and all that? Sure. And I know some fans, bloggers and podcasters are like, oh, I watch game film. I watch tape. No, you watch YouTube highlights. Stop making it sound like you're more important than you really are. Okay, please. You're not impressing anyone. Certainly not me. You're not fooling me. But it's not that hard to go on YouTube and watch this stuff. And second of all, if you're doing that, you've got way too much time on your hands. And I sure as hell will take an NFL scout's opinion over your YouTube highlight analysis. Like, come on, please. The point here is these teams know what they're doing. Do they get it right every single time? No, of course not. But there's a reason why so many teams pass up on certain players. Oh, but Farzine, all 32 teams or 30 teams, whatever it was back then, passed on Tom Brady several times. Yeah, I'm aware. That is a once in a lifetime situation where you see a prolific football player get taken that late in a draft. How many other times have you seen a quarterback get drafted around 199 and they dominate the league? How many other times have you seen that? Never. Never. And I guess you might see it with Shedeur Sanders, and we'll get into Shedeur Sanders shortly. But NFL teams know what they're doing. And I see the complaints and crying about Brad. Oh, no, Brad Veach doesn't know what he's doing. Really? I mean, like, it's okay to have an opinion and to, disagree or agree on things, but can we not act like we know more? Unless you personally have scouted and interviewed these players and evaluated them personally, I'm not interested in your opinion that you know better than than a general manager that has helped the Chiefs reach 3 straight Super Bowls, winning 2 of them back to back. And by the way, they've made it to 7 straight AFC title games. Like, I think Brett Veach knows what the hell he's doing. So let's take a chill pill on that, shall we? Just a little bit of a chill pill there. So those are my thoughts on the Chiefs draft picks. Overall, like I said, I think they attacked a lot of needs here. They certainly tried to improve the line of scrimmage with Josh Simmons, Norman Lott, and Ashton Gelati. I'm excited to see Norman Lott and Gelati contribute to this defensive line. This defense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. You can get pressure on a quarterback, you'll have success, and hopefully that pressure turns into sacks. Well, actually, I take that back, because a pressure, instead of a pressure, you get a sack. How about that? Because a pressure is different and a sack is different. If the pressure turns into ill-advised throws, then yeah, the pressure it turns out to be great. But the Chiefs kind of struggle with that. They pressured a lot of quarterbacks, but also allowed a lot of completions in the process of that. So hopefully Kansas City can improve on that in 2025. And I think they will with these new additions. Also, you got Jerry Tillery, who's part of your defensive line depth right now. So Kansas City has a lot to work with when you look at the defensive line there. We'll go into depth chart conversations on another podcast. I just don't think today's a time for that, because we've already got a lot to cover. But I feel pretty good about what the Chiefs did in general with this draft. I like what they did. I hope you liked it as well. I certainly think a lot of improvement is on the horizon for Kansas City. A couple of other draft notes. I mentioned the running back fallout. The Bears took Colton Loveland, 10th overall, over Tyler Warren. I mean, listen, Tyler Warren is the clear-cut best tight end in this draft. At least I like to think so. I'm not a scout, not an evaluator. Every team will have different opinions, I guess, and the Bears just loved Loveland more than Warren, I guess. I don't think the Colts are complaining because they landed Warren 14th overall, 4 picks later. I think the Patriots upgraded. They really, listen, I think they already got a massive upgrade with Mike Vrabel, and I've said this many times. Tennessee will regret firing Mike Vrabel. That was a terrible decision. They got Will Campbell. They got Travion Henderson. They got Jared Wilson. Some help for Drake May on offense. They go and get Kyle Williams from Washington State. They got 11 picks here. I think a lot of these guys are going to pan out. Coaching matters, man. It matters a lot in this league. But look at the Chiefs. They went from 2012 to disaster season to a 9-0 turnaround start in 2013 with Andy Reid. I mean, that was quite the turnaround. And the Chiefs have hardly looked back since then. Had a couple slow starts like 2015 and 2021, but they found a way to make the playoffs both times, winning a playoff game, at least one playoff game those 2 seasons. So I like what the Chiefs have been doing with that. And I think the Patriots are certainly moving in a better direction after the draft. The Raiders, I'm not a fan of the Raiders draft picks. They got Jack Beck from TCU. Rest of the draft really does not blow me away. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty is the big one, and I think that's a great pickup there. But let me just say this: you got Brock Bowers, great tight end, and I think he's going to have a great career. You have Ashton Jeanty, who I think is going to be a great running back. Who the hell's going to block for you? Who the hell's your quarterback? Geno Smith? Okay. I guess that's a good temporary fix for now until you realize he's not really it. I mean, because you're fooling yourself if you think Geno Smith is your long-term future. He's not. The Raiders passed on Shedeur Sanders 7 times, more than any other team. The Raiders, the Raiders had this a couple of years ago. Great pieces, but they didn't work well as a unit. And listen, the Raiders are the Raiders. Until they prove otherwise, I'm not expecting too much from them in 2025. And let's go into Shedeur Sanders, who the Raiders passed on 7 times. The big story with Shedeur Sanders was him falling in the draft. I know during the draft weekend, some clips came out of him, I guess, getting in the face of a ball boy at one point, also taunting the opposing quarterback after a game. And people wondered, could this be why he's falling in the draft? His behavior to opposing players, to equipment people. Is that why? I mean, I don't know. And listen, man, my whole life, I've always heard of nepotism and how if your daddy or your mommy, and usually it's the daddy who, if they were someone famous at one point, that can really work to your advantage. Not this past weekend for Shedeur Sanders. Certainly not the case. I don't think Deion Sanders being your father, I don't think it hurt him, but it certainly didn't help him. I know a lot of people have their opinion about how they feel like maybe Deion, his connection to Shedeur, being his father and his coach, played a role in all of that. I don't think that was. But again, I don't think it helped either. But he fell to the Browns. Oddly enough, the Browns took 2 quarterbacks in this draft. They got Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. And no quarterbacks went in the 4th round. And Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round, day 3. Cam Ward, number 1 overall, no surprise. Then you had Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck, Jalen Milroe, and Dylan Gabriel all go before Shedeur Sanders. That was a surprise. That was a surprise for sure. Listen, if you thought Shedeur would fall, fine. Nobody had him falling to the 5th round. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Now, the biggest talking point with Shedeur Sanders is this prank phone call he received, and it was filmed on both ends. Shedeur, I guess, was live streaming on Twitch, I think it was. So people saw it on there, and then these pranksters filmed it on their end. Basically, the pranksters, and I don't know the name of the person who was on the phone pulling off the prank. He says, "Hey, I'm Mickey Loomis with the Saints. Yeah, I'm with the Saints." Like, really? We're gonna draft you, but you're gonna have to wait. And he hangs up the phone, and they all laugh like it's the funniest thing they ever pulled off. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled. I mean, listen, they didn't rob a bank, okay? They didn't end any innocent lives here, okay? Like, let's settle down a little bit. Is it kind of messed up what they did? Yeah, it is. I mean, this guy's probably Shedeur, referring to, already running through so many emotions right now. He's down, and he was kicked while he was down by these pranksters. Now, in the video of the pranksters, and you can tell it looks like they're in some college dorm room. There was someone who was recognized in the background, Jack Ulbrich, and people quickly connected him to Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, who was also the interim head coach, I believe, with the Jets last year after Robert Saleh was fired early in the season. This blew up real fast when people realized that the person that pulled a prank on Shedeur Sanders was the son of a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Oh boy, there are some serious concerns here. So the statement the Falcons put out was that, I guess, Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, his son was home for the weekend, coming home from college, whatnot. I guess his notebook or his iPad was just laid out open on like the couch or table, something, I don't know. And his son just kind of looked over and was like, "Oh, bunch of phone numbers here." Because Shedeur was not the only one pranked. Several football players were pranked this weekend, and the NFL is looking into that. One thing important to note, the numbers that these coaches have, these are not their personal numbers. The NFL will give a phone to all of the draft hopefuls for the weekend, and this is the number that the teams are given to call whenever they want to make the pick. I'm surprised the coordinators have the numbers. I don't know if they have them for like evaluations or phone interviews or what, but I mean, if you're going to draft someone, I think the only person who's at liberty to really make that call is either the head coach or the GM, depending on how the team operates. Usually it's a GM. So that was kind of odd. That was odd for sure. But Shedeur Sanders was pranked. Jack Ulbrich put out an apology. He said that he was able to talk to Shedeur Sanders on the phone. They had a conversation. Jeff Ulbrich did a press conference today, was very apologetic. In fact, the Falcons they got hit with some fines here. The Falcons organization was fined $250,000. Jeff Ulbrich was fined $100,000. He took all blame and responsibility for his irresponsibility of just being irresponsible, leaving the notepad or whatever out open for his kid to be able to see all of this. Listen, thankfully these are just burner phones, I guess, because they're only used for the draft. Here's my thing. If you're I'll just use myself as an example. Right here, I have my phone right here, and I keep it very, very, very close to me, because I'll tell you right now, I do have the phone numbers. And listen, I mean, I've had some players on this podcast, so this is no secret. I've been interviewing athletes, coaches for many, many years. I have phone numbers of athletes, and if I don't have the athlete's number, I do have their agent's number or their manager, their representative. I've got a lot of VIP contacts, let's just say, okay? I'm just telling you now, like, if anyone ever asks to use my phone, it's not happening. It's very urgent and you don't have your phone or your phone's dead. You need to make a call to someone, fine. I'll put it on speaker. I'm holding that phone. My phone will not end up in anyone else's hands. The only time is if I need someone to take a picture, and you can do something on your phone where you just turn it on camera mode and they can't go into your phone doing any funny business when pretending to take a picture, unless you're dumb enough to not know that setting. So, yeah, look, I don't think the Falcons should be fined for this. Like, come on. I get the league wants to make a statement here to make sure this doesn't happen again because of all these prank calls that took place with several players, not just Shedeur. Jeff Ulbrich, yeah, I can understand that. Like, even though you didn't do anything wrong and, you know, you didn't think your kid would do such thing, yeah, I don't know. He should have known better, I guess. Look, a lot of times when, like, if your parent, if your mom or dad was like the principal or the superintendent of a school district, dude, you knew right from wrong because of your mom and dad. You knew that if you were ever in any trouble, oh boy, you're not just in trouble with the principal or the superintendent, you're in trouble with your parent also in that process. So you would think the kid of a coach or a defensive coordinator would know better, but he thought, hey, let's pull off a funny prank here. I mean, I don't know, man. Again, like, I don't think the kid is a bad guy. I think he just made a really bad choice. Listen, we've all done stupid shit when we were kids in our teens and early 20s, whether it's, you know, throwing toilet paper at someone's house, something harmless along those lines. Now, things like egging someone's house or throwing a brick at or a rock at a car or a window, I mean, that's just straight up vandalism, and you already know it's wrong. But things like a prank phone call, who didn't do a prank phone call at any point in their life? You know, those school directories that they give all the kids in school, which I don't know why they do, by the way, but they do. Dude, I mean, listen, I've received prank calls from classmates, and I know people who, I did it at one point. Everyone did it. So it's not like, you know, it's the worst thing in the world, and this kid, you know, should be crucified, and you know, they should pin him to a wall and people should just beat him up. No, I mean, come on. Let's chill out a little bit here. He just made a really stupid decision, and hopefully he's learned from it, and hopefully any kid out there that's related to a coach or whoever that could possibly have a lot of phone numbers, I mean, hopefully they all learn from this and they're like, yeah, let's absolutely not do this kind of thing. Hopefully everyone's learned their lesson involved in this whole situation. Guys, we're going to take a quick time out here and talk about my friends over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for my ticketing needs, whether it's sports, concerts, any event that is available on SeatGeek. That is where I get my tickets. The nice part about SeatGeek is when you go through an event and look at the ticket prices, if there's a red dot, that means it is overpriced for that ticket. If there's a green dot, that means you're paying a great price for that ticket. SeatGeek keeps it nice and honest, and on top of that, if you're a new SeatGeek customer, you can put in my promo code FARZINE and save $20 off your first purchase from SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com, pick your tickets, and new customers at checkout can put in my promo code FARZINE for $20 off their first order from SeatGeek. All right, let's continue on here as the Chiefs made some news earlier this week. The deadline for using the 5th-year option is May the 1st. Some of you guys might be listening to this on May the 1st. And the Chiefs, they decided to use the 5th-year options, notice plural options, on their 2 first-round draft picks from 2022. And I should clarify, by the way, the deadline to use the 5th-year option on first-round draft picks from 2022 draft selections is May the 1st. And the Chiefs obviously had 2 first-round draft picks that year. They had Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. They traded up to get Trent McDuffie. They got George Karlaftis later on in the draft. And now The Chiefs have them for a 5th-year guarantee. They're locked through 2026. Trent McDuffie will be making $13.6 million in 2026, and Karlaftis will make $15.1 million in 2026. McDuffie's price is certainly low, and it's lame, it sucks, but this is why I think the Pro Bowl is a joke. The reason his number is that low is because he has not been to a Pro Bowl. I don't think that's the most fair way to measure these contracts for a 5th-year option because of just how big of a joke the Pro Bowl really is. And I've gone over that many times, so I'm not going to go over it now. I think All Pro would be a much better way to measure these things, but that's just my opinion. Nonetheless, it worked out for Kansas City in a way that McDuffie has not been to a Pro Bowl because they're not having to pay McDuffie as much. So McDuffie's going to have that $13.6 million deal, and Karlaftis just north of 15 mil right there. So Kansas City will have those two locked through 2026. And that's great because we were just recapping the Chiefs draft. And what was I drooling all over? The fact that the Chiefs upgraded on defense. They went and got a defensive tackle in Omar Norman-Lott who could certainly help control the middle right next to Chris Jones. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Ashton Gelati, I think, is going to be a big part of the defensive end rotation with the edge rushers there with Karlaftis, Omenihu, Dana. FAU is still on the team as well. So I think that's going to be interesting to see for the Chiefs moving forward. And you're keeping Karlaftis for another year. You're keeping Trent McDuffie for another year. So these next 2 years, those two guys are going to be sticking around Kansas City. Now, I think this was... Who posted this? There was an NFL insider. He used to be with NFL Network. He's kind of doing his own thing now. If I can pull up his name here. I completely forgot who it was. My apologies. I want to source the right player here, or the right media outlet. James Palmer. That's who it was. Shortly after the 5th-year options were announced for McDuffie and Karlaftis, James Palmer put out this tweet and said the plan all along is for the Chiefs to get through the draft and then work on getting a new deal done with Trey Smith, which is interesting because Trey Smith was on the franchise tag and he actually wasted little time signing the franchise tag. Some Chiefs fans didn't like it. I said immediately, I'm actually glad he signed that deal because this means you're not going to go through any of the franchise tag drama and franchise tag this and that. You got it out of the way pretty quickly. And if Trey Smith wants to play, doesn't want to hold out or any of that stuff, I viewed it as a good thing. In fact, maybe the Chiefs can come through or come to some sort of an agreement. Now, I don't know all the details. If you sign the franchise tag, can you still negotiate a new deal? That I don't know. I would have to look into. But James Palmer is saying for the Chiefs to get through the draft, then work on getting a new deal done with Trey Smith. So it sounds like they can go about it that way. Maybe that rule has changed over the years. But he adds, not only do they want to get a new deal done with Trey Smith, they also wanted to, at some point, Palmer writes, work on new contracts for George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie and keep them all in Kansas City long term. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. I mean, listen, the Chiefs, they gave Patrick Mahomes a big contract. I know he's no longer a top 10 paid quarterback anymore, which is just insane to even say. He's still making a lot of money nonetheless. You have Creed Humphrey, who is the highest paid center in NFL history. You have, Travis Kelce, I think he's going to retire after this year, but making a lot of money this year. Chris Jones is the highest paid defensive tackle in NFL history, and he's already restructured his deal. Harrison Butker, not much, but still highest paid kicker in NFL history. I mean, the Chiefs are paying a lot of their guys already. And they're looking to pay Trey Smith, George Karlaftis, and Trent McDuffie. I don't think George Karlaftis is in any position to demand to be the highest paid player at his position unless he just totally revs it up this year and next year. McDuffie, he doesn't have the stats to really prove he should be the best, but let's be honest here. There are a lot of players who haven't necessarily been the best at their positions, and they're still getting the highest paid contract in NFL history at their position anyway. So I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I think they get 2 of the 3 done. I hope one of those 2 is Trey Smith. This is going to be a very unpopular opinion. I think you should prioritize George Karlaftis before Trent McDuffie. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy to replace Trent McDuffie. No way. But look, we've already learned already. You can't keep everyone. Tyreek Hill is an example of it. L'Jarius Sneed is an example of it. And so is Joe Thuney. Great players. The problem with the Chiefs is they draft so damn well. They bring in a lot of great free agents. I mean, they've just done a great job over the years with these things. And it does lead to situations like this for Kansas City. When you look at what Kansas City has done, they always get these great players to come to Kansas City through the draft and a little bit in free agency as well. Listen, why am I so excited about this draft that the Chiefs just had? Because they improved at the trenches. They're trying to do what it takes to win at the line of scrimmage. So I think you've got to keep Karlaftis before McDuffie. And again, I'm not saying that because it's quote unquote easy to replace McDuffie. First of all, I think everyone is replaceable. Maybe not as easier to replace, but everyone's replaceable. But I do think it's harder to replace edge rushers than it is defensive backs. I mean, look at the Chiefs. They had a decision between Chris Jones, a defensive lineman, and a defensive back quarterback in L'Jarius Sneed. They picked Chris Jones. Now, there was a little bit of a valid reason there because Sneed has dealt with some injuries. And you saw it last year. He only played, 5 games? So it kind of worked out for Kansas City. It ended up being a great trade for the Chiefs. But I'm just looking here. I think if you have a great pass rush, and I think Kansas City can have that for a long time. If they keep Karlaftis, Chris Jones is going to be here for 4 more years. Omar Norman Lott's on a rookie deal, and so is Ashton Gelati, so they're going to be here for 4 more years. I think as long as you have a good defensive line, a lot of defensive backs will thrive. I think below average defensive backs can be average, and average defensive backs can be good, and good can be great as long as they have a great pass rush to play with on their side. So that's why I think you got to prioritize Karlaftis before McDuffie. Again, easier said than done, and I don't say that lightly because I love McDuffie just like any other Chiefs fan. But again, I'm going to repeat this because Chiefs fans think this is a myth, and we've seen this 3 times in a short amount of time. You can't keep everybody. You're going to have to pick and choose. Now, I will say this. If there's anyone that's earned the benefit of the doubt, it's Brett Veach. This guy has figured it out. It's not always been great. Like I said, they had to trade away Tyreek Hill. They had to trade away Sneed. They had to trade away Thuney. It's not always great, but they always figure it out. Do they not? I mean, listen, they've been to 3 straight Super Bowls here. It's not like they're doing things because they don't know what they're doing and they're bored and they just want to make a trade or make a move here and there. I think the Chiefs, specifically Brett Veach, have earned the benefit of the doubt from us. Now, I still have my prediction. I gave you guys my prediction on what I think they will and should do, but I'll still give Brett Veach the benefit of the doubt because not only does he deserve it, he's earned it up to this point. Last Chiefs topic here, and then we'll get into some non-Chiefs topics that I really want to touch on here before we wrap up the podcast. Chiefs Stadium talk. What a fun subject to have nowadays. Listen, I've said several times this month, obviously, I mean, this is the last day of April, but it was this month a year ago when the vote failed. It's almost 13 months ago if we're being very specific here, but it's been more than a year now. This whole stadium talk is starting to get really tedious, in my opinion. It's starting to get boring. Like, I was listening to Clark Hunt's press conference when he introduced Bill Moss to be the newest member of the Chiefs Hall of Fame. By the way, real quickly on that, I'm getting comments from people. Why is Eric Berry not getting in? Why is Jamal Charles not getting in? Guys, calm down. They're still inducting players from the 80s and 90s. Tim Grunhard had to wait a really long time to get into the Chiefs Hall of Fame, and he's a recent Hall of Fame inductee for the Chiefs. Some of these guys just take a while, man. Tom Bahali didn't have to wait too long. Travis Kelce, let's just say he retires this year. I don't think Travis Kelce's waiting too damn long. Within 5 to 6 years, he's getting in. Within 5. Forget, why am I even saying 6? Within 5, he's getting it. 100%. But Clark Hunt, they did the press conference with Bill Moss, and then Bill Moss stepped away, and the stadium talks. Clark Hunt did a separate press conference with respect to Bill Moss, just to not take up Clark Hunt's time with Bill Moss for those questions. But eventually, they transitioned, and the stadium conversations happened real fast. Clark Hunt didn't really give much. He honestly, anything Clark Hunt said, I think had been repeated before. It had been repeated in the past. I think the only new thing Clark Hunt said is that if they want to build a brand new stadium, it's gonna be a 4 to 5 year timeline project. That's I would say the only new thing he said. He said a renovation project would take the same amount. Why would a renovation project take 5 to 6 years or 4 to 5 years? That confused me. I don't think renovations will take that long unless you're really giving your stadium a new facelift. I mean, at that point, you might as well just build a new stadium. Listen, man. Nothing exciting from the Chiefs side of things, but we did get the news this week that the Washington Commanders signed a new $3.8 billion deal, and good for their new owner because he's way better than Dan Snyder, for a brand new stadium. And at this point, we now have more than 1/3 of NFL stadiums that will be indoors. So for people who are complaining about, football should be played outdoors, well, we're getting more and more indoor stadiums. And I honestly, I think it's a good thing. Now, if you have a retractable roof, sure, that can certainly help allow you to keep the outdoor elements only when it's good outdoors. Like, look at the frozen tundra game between the Chiefs and Dolphins in the playoffs recently. You certainly would have wished that had an indoor type of environment, but I digress. Now, there are some other NFL stadiums out there that are being proposed, like the Chicago Bears and a couple other teams, to have an indoor stadium. The Chiefs are kind of in a place now where they're flirting with the idea of an indoor stadium. And if all of these deals end up happening, including Kansas City's deal in KCK of an indoor stadium, we're going to get to a point where half of the NFL stadiums by 2031 or 2032, half of them are going to be indoors. So for anyone that says football should not ever be played indoors, we're getting more and more indoor stadiums. Sorry. I think the Chiefs have got to get with the times. And I'm not saying it has to be Kansas. It could be in Missouri as long as it's in the right spot. But Missouri's not talking, the mayor specifically is not talking about a new stadium. He's just talking renovation. You've renovated the stadiums twice. Move on. You've got to, because if you renovate again, you're going to have to revisit this in a decade or 2 or 3 later, and then it's going to be way more expensive then. You got to do it now if you're Kansas City. Got to do it now. We'll see what the Chiefs do. Doesn't seem like this is going away anytime soon, so listen, I'm having to remind myself of this. Gonna have to wait very patiently to see how it all goes. We're going to take a quick break here and spend a moment to talk about my friends over at Fathead. Fathead has the best life-size wall graphics of your favorite players and team logos and has been going strong for almost 2 decades. Maybe you're looking to spice up your man cave where you watch all of your sports. Perhaps you want to add to your room where you have all of your sports memorabilia. You can get something that looks cool for your kid's bedroom. Or maybe you're a Swiftie and you want Taylor Swift's boyfriend as part of your celebrity wall. Fathead is the place to go, and if you're a Chiefs fan, you can get fatheads of your favorite current and former Chiefs players such as Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tony Gonzalez, Derek Thomas, and more. For those of you watching on the live stream, look for my exclusive Fathead link in the comments right now. And for those listening to the audio version, look for my exclusive Fathead link in the podcast description. When you use my link, you will get free standard US shipping when you place an order on Fathead. Use my exclusive Fathead link, get yourself some Chiefs Fathead swag, and take advantage of free shipping in the United States. All right, final segment of the show here. A couple things to get into here, some non-Chiefs topics here. Remember Henry Ruggs, the same Henry Ruggs who left the MGM Grand in Las Vegas at the Strip and went to the suburban area, 156 miles per hour, and took the life of an innocent woman? Yeah, his name has been brought up. So Josh Jacobs, who was the running back for the Packers, a former teammate of Henry Ruggs with the Raiders and with Alabama, he did an interview on the Pivot podcast, and he opened up about Henry Ruggs, talking about how he was actually supposed to go out with Henry Ruggs that night, and kind of talks about how difficult it was to have learned from other sources about what had happened and just his reaction to that whole situation. I know Derek Carr opened up emotionally about what had happened and what he wished he would have done, calling him and everything. But Josh Jacobs had a really interesting thing to say on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark. So Josh Jacobs says he keeps up with Henry Ruggs, who's in prison right now. He's training in there. He's keeping in shape. Said he's positive about everything, and they let him train in prison. And Josh Jacobs claims that he's been talking to some people for him. In fact, he says that there are teams out there that will be willing to give him a chance. You know, it's interesting. For the last year, I've been hearing people talk about how Rashee Rice should be in prison and should never come back and play football ever again. Boy, if you're one of those Chiefs haters that's directing your hate and frustration over the fact that Rashee Rice got to play this past year, you better have that same energy for Henry Ruggs, who actually took the life of another woman. So if you're going to be all angry that Rashee Rice played, but you're not going to have that same frustration when teams are just even considering Henry Ruggs, miss me with that bullshit. I am not going to sit here and listen to that hypocrisy. Nope. You guys know me. I will call that out every single time. Henry Ruggs should not get a second chance, man. If Ray Rice didn't get a second chance, why should Henry Ruggs? I mean, listen, I'm not interested in comparing things, but Henry Ruggs killed somebody. Rice beat the living hell out of his wife in an elevator. I mean, I don't know what the status of that relationship is today, but as soon as footage came out of that whole altercation, Rice got kicked off the team and was never brought back to the NFL ever again. I mean, if Henry Ruggs gets a second chance, oh boy. And listen, you know that this guy is not going to get the same punishment that the average person would get. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. This guy, because of his status as a former NFL player for now, I guess, he's going to get off easy. Did you guys not see Britt Reed? That dude, under the influence, crashed into another car and severely injured a young girl. And he got to walk off free. Went to the hospital, no handcuffs to the hospital bed, got to go home. And he got to live life. Went to prison eventually, but not right away. That's you or me, man. We're not getting that same kind of treatment. But yeah, man, I don't know about Henry. This is interesting. Are teams really considering? I'm not saying Henry Ruggs has not learned from this. He has damn well learned from this. If that's not how he learns, I don't know how he'll learn. But a team willing to give this guy a second chance? Oh boy, I don't know, man. That doesn't sit well with me. And if you're a Chiefs hater and the whole Rashee Rice being able to play didn't sit well with you, I better hear the same energy from you guys. But I know you're not going to. I know you're not. I want to discuss the Bill Belichick mess here. And that's putting it lightly, by the way. Bill Belichick did an interview with CBS Morning Sunday. I'm sorry, I don't watch these things. Whatever it's called. He was doing it to promote his book that's coming out soon, I think. Now, naturally, in any of these kinds of interviews, other topics came up. Belichick's relationship with his girlfriend, who is 49 years younger than him, came up. Oh, this is real. Yeah, that became a talking point. And I believe, I don't know how you pronounce his name, Tony DeCopil, I think is how you say it. He asked about his girlfriend Jordan, who again is 49 years younger than Bill. He was asked how they met. Or first he asked about, how they're, she's posting photos on them. They're doing the mermaid thing and they're doing the fish photo. Belichick is, holding her up with his feet and hands, and he's clearly struggling while doing it, while she looks like she's having a grand old time doing so. And Belichick kind of responded to that and said, I don't really care what other people think. And yeah, I'm on Instagram now. Then the next question was, how did you guys meet? And Belichick's girlfriend, Jordan, from a distance shouts and says, we're not talking about this. Basically shutting down that question. According to CBS, she apparently stormed out of the room at some point during the interview. And evidently she cut in a few times during the interview. If you haven't noticed, like whenever North Carolina had their spring game, Belichick's girlfriend was checking in with her before the spring practice or whatever you want to call it. It's like, I've never seen people complain about Patrick Mahomes' family getting extra access or Taylor Swift getting extra access. They don't do. The players will have a quick moment before a game to greet their wives, kids, family, whoever's out there, agents. That's really all I ever see from Brittany or anyone else on the Chiefs. Jordan is straight up like she's involved in everything. I literally think she might as well just get the title of assistant coach for North Carolina, because she's being asked to be tagged in all of these emails alongside Bill. Listen, don't give me this bullshit of, she's 18 years old. She's 49 years younger than him. What could they possibly talk about? Oh, listen, good for Bill. I mean, he's got the money for it. But man, Bill is clearly in love with this woman, because with this whole fallout from the CBS interview, Belichick put out a lengthy statement, which probably had some words added in there by Jordan. Basically was saying the interview was supposed to be about the book and that the publisher made it clear with CBS and nothing else was supposed to be discussed. I'm sorry. Is Bill Belichick that shallow? What? Like, come on. Belichick's been around long enough to know that if you're going to do an interview promoting something, you know damn well that they'll talk about the book, but other topics will come up. Like, there's no way his football career is not going to be discussed and how he has this new college football venture ahead of him. And his relationship with Jordan has been out there. She has been posting about him quite a bit. So people are talking about it, whether you like it or not. Listen, everyone on this planet is aware that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are dating. Every single person is aware of it. But do you see Taylor and Travis posting about it all the time? No. Travis has mentioned Taylor a few times on his podcast. Taylor, I think, has only posted one photo with Travis, and that was when they met the royal family during her tour. I think it was last offseason. So there's a reason why Travis does not get bombarded with Taylor questions. I mean, he gets asked once in a while. Obviously, Super Bowl week, he gets more questions about Taylor, and it's usually about her work ethic in concerts, what the relationship is like, and he talks about, getting supportive. On the Stephen A. Smith podcast, Stephen A. Smith asked about what that relationship is like, and Kelce gave a fair and general answer. Didn't want to get too detailed into it. And then Stephen A. talked about how cool one of her concerts were, and Kelce was, laughing and was willing to chat about that for a little bit. Jordan, who is 24 or 26 years old, is somewhere around that range. I think she's learning that when you're dating a very famous football coach for his money, and let's be honest, that's why they're dating, that she's just going to be thrust into the spotlight, especially when you are posting about it a lot on Instagram. By the way, I love her Instagram comments lately. It is a place to visit. It really is. But, dude, don't get all mad when you make a big deal about this and then get asked about it, or Bill gets asked about it, and you're in the room trying to control the interview. There's a reason why Travis Kelce doesn't get bombarded each week with Taylor Swift questions. At one point, yeah, he kind of did in the beginning, but then it just kind of went away, and people just kind of were. I remember when the Chiefs were getting ready to play the Dolphins in Germany. And Travis Kelce was asked by someone in the German media, "Are you in love with her?" And Travis Kelce gave a really professional answer. I'm sure he was PR prepped for it, but that's okay. A lot of people are PR prepped for these kinds of things. And he said, "You know what? I appreciate the question, but I'm going to keep that kind of thing to myself." That is exactly why Travis Kelce does not get hit week after week with Taylor Swift questions. Meanwhile, Belichick's going to have to deal with this, because for as young and beautiful as she is a bit of a mess here. I mean, she's not handling this public spotlight very well. You chose to be in this relationship, lady. You sat next to this guy on an airplane. You liked him for his money, and he liked you for his looks, even though you're 49 years apart. And that's how it all goes. Hey, listen, to go back to the interview thing, I've interviewed, for those of you guys listen to the podcast, you guys know this. I've interviewed athletes talking about their book or their charity event or their foundation or whatever it is they want to promote. We'll talk about that either in the beginning or the end. Every interviewer has their own style of going about that kind of thing. And then you talk about football or whatever it is you want to talk about. Everyone goes through that. So to think that this was only going to be about the book and nothing was going to come up, I mean, there's no way Bill Belichick could be that oblivious to this. He's been around the game a long time to know that the media will ask what they want to ask. And listen, I didn't think it was a bad interview by DeCopel. I thought it was a well done by him. I don't think there was anything wrong or anything terrible by it. It's okay to be asked how you met someone. Like, it's not like he was saying, "So, what do you guys like to do together?" Like, he wasn't getting into details about the relationship. Like, come on. Everyone's been asked basic questions. If you get offended about how you met and you don't want that to be answered, I'm sorry. You need to log off social media, lady. You got to learn. Until then, figure out how to hire a PR manager. Seriously, Jordan needs a PR manager really bad. If she wants this relationship, if these two want this relationship, they're going to need a publicist here, and a really good one. Bill Belichick's not attractive? Well, of course not. He's 73, 74. She's the hot one. I mean, Belichick's wallet's attractive. Let's be honest here. Yeah, that's listen. North Carolina football is going to be a lot of fun to watch if you're not a North Carolina fan. Let me just put it that way. The Lakers are playing tonight against the Timberwolves. This series is not going well for the Lakers. They were the obvious favorites given that they were a 3 seed playing a 6 seed. My God. The Lakers look like a mess. They don't play well as a team. LeBron, where was he in the fourth quarter of the last game? By the time some of you are listening to this, the game will probably be over. The Lakers will be done, possibly, more than likely, unless they pull a miracle here, down 3-1 in the series. Listen, the Mavericks got a lot of shit for trading away Luka. What do the Lakers do with Luka? I mean, sure, they played better and won more games, but all for a first-round bounce? I don't know, man. I mean, the Lakers better figure it out because I think LeBron really wants one more championship ring, and I can understand that. But, boy, he's got to show up, and the Lakers have got to build a better team because they're not playing well in these playoff games. They're just not. They're really not. Robert's asking, have I been watching the VGK versus Wild series? Hell yeah. I was up late last night for that one. 2 straight games into overtime, and VGK pulled through, baby. Go Knights, go. Teresa says, go Avs. No, get out of here with that. Screw the Avs. We can agree on the Chiefs, but we're never going to agree on hockey, Teresa. Robert's a Kings fan, so, I mean, Robert's got his own problems there with the Kings. So what's that word called? There was a word I had for it. I completely drew a blank on it. I can't think of the word. Just it's like an embarrassing thing that you like, but I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me with that before we sign off here. But yeah, listen, I will say this about the NBA and the NHL playoffs. I remember in 2004, there was this complaint that the hockey playoffs and the basketball playoffs take way too long. But at the same time, it's like there's a lot of really good action. Maybe one series is not as good, but then there's always at least another game here and there that'll be enjoyable to watch. I think a lot of us can agree the most exciting 96 hours in sports is the NCAA tournament, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, not counting the plans and all that stupid stuff. Guilty pleasure, by the way. That's what I was looking for. Robert's guilty pleasure is the Kings. That's okay. For the longest time, my guilty pleasure was KU football. It's actually better now than it was before. But I will say this. I truly think this time of the year, where it's mid to late April, all the way to mid-May, you've got a lot of hockey games and basketball games to look forward to because of the playoffs here. I really do like this time of year in the NFL offseason because the draft is done. It's kind of going to go low-key for a little bit here, and you can enjoy these basketball and hockey playoffs. I don't get to watch all of them, but man, I try to watch as much as I can, and it is a lot of fun to get into. It really is. So it's a lot of fun to watch these NHL Stanley Cup playoffs and NBA playoff games this time of year because there's a lot of good action that always takes place. Some drama on the NBA side of it too. Hockey postseason, I always feel like it's very intense, and that makes it more fun to watch. But it seems like it's been more intense on the NBA side than the NHL side. But hopefully we get some more good games and series in the next round for both of those sports. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all who watched live. A very long podcast, almost an hour and a half here. So appreciate all of you guys who tuned in on Facebook and YouTube. And for all of you watching on the archive version, big thanks to you guys as well. My name is Farzin Vasugian. There will not be a Red Friday live chat this week. In fact, I think we're going to take a little bit of a break on the Red Friday live chat unless there's breaking news. It is the offseason. There's not really a whole lot, but if the Chiefs do have some big news that comes out, then we'll do a Red Friday live chat, but there will not be one this Red Friday. So, by the way, I'll just say this now. If the Chiefs do have a quiet week, don't expect a Red Friday live chat. If they have a fairly busy week that warrants a Red Friday live chat, then we'll do that there. So just one housekeeping note there. Once again, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for tuning in live and listening to the podcast. I will talk to you all next time. Take care.